But I wanted to get to a bigger point. Because the time comes, somewhat pun intended, for us to take the gloves off when it comes to Jake Paul.
After I beat Mike Tyson, the amount of people saying this is rigged was crazy.
And I can break his mentality, then I've broken Jake. So this is why it's going to be an interesting fight, because I just don't look at it from a physical standpoint.
Word just came out that Stephen A. Smith is absolutely stunned after Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua called out Jake Paul for trying to orchestrate fight outcomes. Smith is saying this is the final straw for the sport. He's demanding boxing put an end to these carnival acts once and for all. The way he sees it, Paul shouldn't even be allowed near boxing gloves, since he's turning legitimate competition into choreographed business transactions. Smith convinced this kind of nonsense is destroying the respect real warriors have earned and making boxing look like a joke across the globe.
A lot of things that I'm talking about here. Boxing's a skill. Let me give y'all an example. Remember Francis Ngannou? Remember that monster? That Nigerian nightmare? Remember him? And then we saw him show up and show a little skill against Tyson Fury, who came there out of shape. What happened when he got into the ring with Anthony Joshua? He got put to sleep much in the same way Nate Robinson got put to sleep. Boxing is a skill.
Anthony Joshua already made his position crystal clear on this whole situation. Someone approached him asking whether he'd take it easy on Jake Paul or agree to any behind-the-scenes arrangements. AJ shut that down immediately without hesitation. He made it known that when he steps between those ropes, it's always 100% authentic with zero compromises. Being a former world champion means Joshua can't afford to put his reputation on the line for circus acts or predetermined results. His legacy means too much to gamble away for quick cash or cheap thrills.
What I learned about Jake is, so when you look at the physicality stuff, and as you said, he's looking at my chest, I think Jake is someone where I got to beat him mentally because he's a mental person. This is my observation. A lot of what Jake's preparation is based around is not only the physical aspects of training, but the way he thinks, meditation, breath work. And if I can break his soul and I can break his mentality, then I've broken Jake. So this is why it's going to be an interesting fight, because I just don't look at it from a physical standpoint. I know the person that's in front of me, and I know that I got to break it. That's what I said, I got to take his soul. It's not just physical, I got to take your soul in the ring.
Only person that can do that is God.
I knew he was going to say that.
Is he f***ing with your brain?
No, I don't know. That's what I was going to ask, is how do you plan on doing that? Like, when is it going to start? I mean, obviously in the fights different, you know? But, I mean, when are you going to start taking it?
I've just seen in fights when I can see someone's, let's call it energy, frequency leaving their body. And that's what my goal is to do the same to you. You have that instinct. You can see it. When you're fighting, you can just see a small glimmer of someone that's just about to start fading. And then you just keep exploiting that, keep exploiting that until some people give up. Some people get knocked out. We'll figure out. But as I said, for me, it's not just going in there and being dominating physically. I want to break him down spiritually and mentally.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you about this next part. Mike Tyson is now claiming that Jake Paul tried to orchestrate specific moments during their encounter. Iron Mike is on record saying the money meant absolutely nothing to him because his bank account was already set for life and no single fight was going to upgrade his mansion or lifestyle. He stepped back into combat one final time for deeply personal motivations that had nothing to do with dollar signs. Word is that Tyson wasn't there chasing a payday, but he damn sure wasn't going to let anyone dictate how things played out either.
Just too good to walk away from.
This fight is not going to change my lifestyle financially. I'm a fighter. I feel good. I can do it. I feel I can beat this guy.
Come on. Well, we're going to be in the building. I'm going to be there. Speaking of the exhibition with Roy, like when that exhibition happened, man, I felt like it was two of my uncles fighting at the barbecue, man.
Joe Rogan breaks down what he thinks is Jake Paul's entire game plan from day one. The way Joe sees it, Jake keeps handpicking opponents who look intimidating on paper but come with built-in advantages that aren't obvious to casual viewers. Rogan doesn't think these matchups happen by accident or coincidence. These legendary names bring massive crowds and social media buzz, regardless of what actually happens once the bell rings. Take the Tyson situation, for example. Joe points out that putting a legend in there automatically sells tickets just because people want to witness history. This sets up scenarios where the show matters more than the actual competition. Rogan strongly suggests that everything seems engineered to work in Jake's favor, which leaves fight fans wondering if they're watching real battles or expensive theater productions designed to generate maximum revenue in social media and engagement.
Man, it's a different thing with that guy.
Well, it's like Matt always says, play to your strengths.
Yeah,
no
but
doubt.
you got to take that payday. I mean, what did he make out of that fight? He probably made $10 million or something.
Yeah.
And Jake Paul's very smart, man. Like he gets guys that he's bigger,
Bigger
than.
than,
The only
younger
time he
than.
fought another boxer his size was
He
Tom
lost.
Fury, and he lost. Tom Fury?
Good fight.
Tommy Fury.
Very
Tommy
good
Fury,
fight.
yeah.
Very good fight. You know, I think he's like any other young up-and-coming boxer. It's just everybody dismisses him because he's a YouTuber.
For sure. It's easy to dismiss him, but I was there when he knocked out Tyron, and I was like, man, I'm done with this kid. I was like, I never wanted to corner another fight in my life, man. I was like, yo, he just knocked my boy flat out on his face, man. I was heartbroken.
Jake Paul fires back at all these claims by calling them complete nonsense from jealous haters. His argument is that people are making up conspiracy theories because they can't handle watching him climb the ladder successfully. Jake's position is that crying about rigged fights is just a weak excuse used by bitter critics who refuse to acknowledge his legitimate improvement as a fighter. He keeps pointing to athletic commissions and regulatory bodies, saying these organizations would never permit the kind of illegal activity people are suggesting. Jake maintains that every single opponent chooses to sign contracts voluntarily and that he puts in serious training camp work to earn each victory. His belief is that all this constant complaining actually proves he's shaken up the entire boxing establishment and forced old-school fans to deal with changes they absolutely hate accepting.
After I beat Mike Tyson, the amount of people saying this is rigged was crazy. They like showed this clip of Mike Tyson going to swing at me with a left hook, and he like stopped doing it, but saw I had my right hand up. So he would have like swung like this. I catch it and shoot. He's leaning forward like I could have knocked him out. So that's why he stopped throwing it. And it's like they play this one clip and it has literally 50 million.
You notice that little stumble, but most people watching don't really understand what they're seeing in boxing. The Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight revealed a brutal and obvious skill gap right from the first exchange. Former UFC champion Michael Bisping had strong reactions, explaining that Jake Paul was completely outclassed and had no business sharing the ring with an elite heavyweight like Anthony Joshua. Bisping called it a masterclass in what separates real professional boxing from everything else, where precise timing, technical ability, and years of experience determine who walks out standing. Joshua's combinations were laser accurate and devastating, highlighting just how wide the talent gap really was. Bisping made it clear this outcome was guaranteed from the moment contracts were signed, because Paul simply didn't possess the defensive skills, ring intelligence, and conditioning necessary to survive against world championship caliber opposition at that elite level.
No, that wasn't the case at all. What we saw, in my humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing. It's not MMA, as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round, he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, then a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough for it to be credible?
People are saying influencer boxing completely destroyed what the sport used to represent. Once content creators and social media stars invaded boxing, everything became about generating clicks and maximizing profit instead of perfecting technique and building lasting legacies. Plenty of observers think modern fights get constructed around viral moments rather than genuine athletic ability. Boxing used to be defined by years of sacrifice and technical mastery, but now that seems less important than having the right marketing team and social media following. These events bring in incredible money through brand partnerships and streaming platform deals, which creates situations where many suspect winning and losing becomes secondary to hitting financial targets. Traditional boxing fans feel like influencer boxing is basically expensive entertainment that happens to use boxing equipment instead of authentic sporting competition.
You felt like boxing's pretty rigged overall.
Oh, yes, Rick, dude. I mean, so many politics, even with, MMA, man, there's so many politics. There's no more art anymore. It's just, let's get an influencer in there. I get it. It's like generating money because our attention span is so short. You look at clips now, it's like 7 seconds. I saw a dude slamming a lady the other day and they were like, oh my God, that dude is, I'm like, well, what the do? I'm just going to pick somebody and slam them. Where's the whole video? And our attention span is just so small. So money talks, of course. Yeah, let's get an influencer in there who has no style, but it draws attention. It's just
the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul matchup faced brutal criticism from both casual fans and professional analysts across the board. Most people thought the entire thing looked artificial and way too choreographed to be believable. Having Tyson's reputation as arguably the most intimidating fighter in boxing history makes the whole performance that much harder for people to accept as genuine. Fight fans keep asking why Tyson seemed so restrained and why pivotal moments that should have ended everything just never happened. Critics see this fight as the perfect example of everything toxic about influencer boxing culture. It reinforces their theory that legendary fighters are getting used as props to make modern spectacles seem legitimate rather than actually competing with real intentions. More video clips keep surfacing online, which only increases the examination and suspicion. People analyze specific moments where aggression looks deliberately held back, and the overall pacing feels too perfectly managed. The fight's tempo doesn't match what experienced fans expect from authentic high-pressure boxing situations. This creates even stronger suspicions that the entire event got designed to protect certain storylines and business interests. Nobody has produced definitive evidence proving manipulation, but the visual evidence people point to keeps these debates burning hot. This fight keeps getting referenced whenever scripted boxing conversations come up, which only makes public doubts about Jake Paul's most significant matchups grow stronger and more widespread.
Netflix is currently being sued over their Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. And it's not because people think the fight was rigged, though I have questions, and that's what we'll get into. It's because it didn't work. And a lot of people were buffering and unable to watch it despite signing up to pay for it. Now, the bigger question I have about this fight is how come no one is suing over the fight being rigged? There's a lot of questions, and there's evidence piling up that suggests it may have been somewhat rigged. Now, there's varying degrees of arguments. The first is that Tyson was required to complete 8 rounds for money. Some say that's how it was rigged. He's not going to go all out to shut down Jake Paul because he wants $20 million. Others have said he was told he's not allowed to do uppercuts because that would end Jake Paul and probably hurt him very badly. Those are the two principal conspiracies, I suppose. One is that Mike Tyson actually pulled his punches completely and tried to avoid fighting, which falls in line with that first conspiracy, I suppose, of rigging. Now, of course, my friends, if you watched my video from before the fight, I thought it was going to be rigged for Tyson. Jake Paul doesn't look good having beat up an old man. I'm like, they're going to do something to have Mike Tyson win in the later rounds. And that way it'll be like the boomers and the Gen Xers who love boxing will see the champ fight one more time. Jake Paul is a young man. There's no harm in a young man losing to the great Tyson. They might say you got beat up by an old man. I'll be like, it was Mike Tyson. But maybe Jake Paul's got too much of an ego for that. So I was wrong. What I was right about, I was half right. I said if Jake Paul wins this, people are going to be pissed. And it sucked. You know, we all watched it, and then we were like, what is this?
Nikisa Badarian jumps into the conversation to push back against all this criticism and speculation. He completely rejects any suggestions of scripting or behind-the-scenes manipulation, explaining that such behavior would be criminal and completely impossible under official professional boxing oversight and regulations. Badarian actually thinks Jake performed significantly better than the official scorecards reflected across multiple rounds of their encounter. His perspective is that taking criticism comes with the territory in professional boxing, especially when mainstream popularity gets involved in the mix. Badarian's convinced that Jake has actually gained more genuine supporters despite all the negative publicity and social media backlash. The way he explains it, intense hatred typically grows right alongside fame and recognition, so Jake's expanding profile naturally creates controversy regardless of what actually happened or didn't happen.
So that would have meant, 3-2 for Joshua heading into the 6th round, which again, a lot of people thought that he would dispose of him rather quickly. Can you give us an update on how he's doing? We know that he broke his jaw in multiple places, 2 places to be exact, and I believe he has revealed that he's had surgery since. How is he doing? How is he feeling?
He's doing great. Obviously, there's periods of time during the day where there's a lot of pain, periods of time where there is no pain actually. Recovery process is 5 to 6 weeks, and he's focused on coming back as a boxer in 2026. This is a sport that he loves. This is a sport that saved him from the path that he was on in the past. And I think in a funny way, I'm kind of glad he didn't win. And I know that may sound harsh, but imagine if Jake Paul, 5 years into the sport in reality, probably 3 years into the sport in terms of 3.5 years in terms of fighting top level competition who are fighters, beat Anthony Joshua. What would be the motivation to continue to get better, to double down on your training, to grind even harder had he had beaten Anthony Joshua? So Jake always says the best lessons or the best wins are from your losses. And I believe that happened with Tommy Fury. And I 100% believe that happened here. Because if Jake is truly passionate about this sport, he now realizes that he has to even commit more time, more resources, more days into elevating his craft.
So the injury obviously is different than your typical injury, because obviously it's right there. That's where you're getting punched. And as we were talking about with Eddie earlier, like that could sometimes change the trajectory of one's career. And there are some people who don't come back. Some do. Some have had great careers after breaking their jaw. Is there any part of you after seeing that says to yourself, hey man, you've made millions of dollars. It's been incredible. We built this thing. It's lasting far longer than your career, right? MVP can be a thing with or without Jake. You saw the event in July. We don't need to do this anymore. You proved your point. I don't want to see you get hurt.
Here's what I think needs to be addressed about Jake's mindset leading up to the Tyson fight. Jake Paul's public statements before facing Tyson created another wave of suspicion and doubt. He went on record multiple times saying he knew victory was guaranteed before even entering the building that night. Sure, confidence is standard operating procedure for professional fighters, but critics felt his certainty crossed the line from self-belief into something else entirely. His relaxed attitude and matter-of-fact predictions made observers think the result was predetermined in his mind weeks ahead of time. Skeptics interpreted this confidence as less like competitive preparation and more like someone expecting everything to go according to a predetermined script. Jake's post-fight reactions only added fuel to public skepticism and conspiracy theories. His body language suggested complete satisfaction rather than the exhaustion or emotional release you'd expect. Fight fans started comparing this to traditional fighters who show visible, raw emotion after surviving genuine wars in the ring. This difference deepened suspicions that the event never carried legitimate risk or uncertainty for either participant. Supporters saw composure and professional maturity, while critics viewed it as proof that the fight lacked real competitive stakes from beginning to end. The Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. encounter sparked immediate and widespread disbelief across social media platforms. Julio looked strangely inactive throughout almost every round of the fight. His punch output stayed extremely low, and he rarely applied any meaningful pressure or urgency. Most viewers felt like Julio was physically present, but mentally checked out rather than actually trying to win. This created accusations that competitive balance was never part of the original plan. Fans couldn't comprehend why such an experienced professional would fight with such obvious lack of intensity unless proper motivation was completely absent from the equation.
My first one. Mike Tyson, successful. That's a really interesting choice because it is a choice. And if you look at 90% of fights out there and you ask the person what's going to happen, they speak about what they're going to do physically. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to give him a beating. I'm going to win. Something about their capacity physically. But this is Mike Tyson successful. And if you really think about that, if you look at this fight and look at the outcome, I would say since one half left with $40 million and the other half, the sum that's being talked about is $20 million, yeah, I would say that's pretty successful. Basically what I'm saying is that the adjective successful doesn't necessarily speak to the result of the fight. It doesn't necessarily speak to his capacity in the fight. It could be successful monetarily. It could be successful in the sense that he lasted at his age 8 rounds, so he feels like that's a personal success. Then he says victorious, which I guess is much more related to him suggesting that he's actually going to win. He's going to be the victorious one in the fight. And it's interesting that he said victorious as opposed to I'm going to win, I'm going to knock him out, which is a more concrete promise, quote unquote. But still, that successful is really interesting to me, that's where his mind went first. Then, after he provides the answer, Mike Tyson, successful, victorious, he himself changes the subject. He immediately gets off the topic and says, today is Ramadan, it's my holy holiday, so I can't say how I truly feel. Which, saying that he can't say how he truly feels, really corresponds with that lip compression that we saw in the beginning.
Paulie Malignaggi offers a different explanation for what people witnessed that night. His theory suggests the real problem might not involve fixing, but rather financial priorities taking precedence over competitive drive. Malignaggi's view is that Julio's embarrassingly low punch statistics reflect inadequate preparation rather than predetermined outcomes. He breaks it down by explaining that when fighters accept fights purely for monetary reasons, their competitive fire gets extinguished completely. Without genuine desire to win and prove themselves, performance inevitably becomes lazy and uninspired. This explanation removes direct blame from Jake while still exposing serious structural problems with influencer boxing as a whole. It suggests the entire system accidentally encourages professional fighters to collect easy paychecks instead of protecting their warrior pride and competitive legacy.
A couple of shocking results. I think that Jake Paul on the cards and the promotional arm of his brand, I think is the most fun part of what Jake Paul brings to boxing. Honestly, I think long term, I think that's what we can hold hope for. Because Jake's fights are, this one was borderline atrocious, and kind of the writing was on the wall, but I gotta admit, even I bought drank the Kool-Aid, and mainly I drank the Kool-Aid because Chavez Sr., who also is disgraceful for doing this, made me believe, and I think, this has been the problem with Chavez Jr. He's been enabled constantly by the media, the promoters, his family, and all this other stuff. So he never really shows up prepared. He never cares and just shows up to get paid and basically steals the bag every single time. And he did it tonight again. The reason I actually thought this fight had a chance was because Chavez Sr. Guaranteed us that his son was motivated and was having a training camp. So, as much of a Hall of Fame career as a father had, the con artist, I guess, must run in the family because Junior's been a con artist his whole career, but at least he's been enabled through it, But now the father doing this, you knew already your son wasn't going to be ready. You put your own reputation on the line and sold us this crap. And then ultimately your son throws what most guys will throw in a round. He throws it through 10 rounds. It was actually kind of really insane.
That's it for that wraps up everything we needed to cover in today's breakdown. So make sure you keep watching for more updates coming your way.